Sauron was the Dark Lord during the Second and Third Age, but during the First Age he was only a mere servant to Morgoth. What were his origins, and what was his role as the right hand of the Dark Lord? He was originally a Maiar called Mairon and served to Valar Aulë, who is most renowned for the creation of the Dwarves. From Aulë he learned much of the craft and the smithing, and he surpassed everyone except for Aulë himself. This he will later use in the Second Age to create the Rings of Power. Mairon loves order, planning and coordination, and for that he admired Melkor's power, to realize his designs quickly and masterfully. So Melkor perceived Mairon to spy for him, and eventually after the destruction of the two lamps, Mairon kneeled for Melkor and joined him, and he became known to the Sindar as Gorthaur, which means dread abomination, and by others he was known as Sauron, which means the abhorred. Sauron commanded the fortress of Angband, not far from the northwestern shores of the sea. During the War of Powers, the Valar captured Melkor and locked him away for 3 ages. The Valar searched both fortresses of Melkor, Utumno and Angband, but they couldn't find all the hidden secrets and vaults, and even Sauron was well hidden. What really happened to Sauron after Melkor's captivity is not really known, but he probably kept himself hidden within the fortress of Angband. After Morgoth, together with Ungoliant, destroyed the 2 trees of Valinor and captured the 3 Silmarils, he returned to the fortress of Angband. Long years after the Noldor have established their realms into Beleriand, there was a long peace. And during that peace, the men awoke in Holdorien at the rising sun. Morgoth had a lot of spies standing their watch, and when he heard the news that the men had awoke, he left Angband in command of Sauron, so Morgoth could corrupt the men to fight against the elves. But that was not fully completed because it took time to corrupt the hearts of men, and they weren't with many in the beginning. So Morgoth returned to Angband and took back control of the fortress, for he feared the growing power of the Union of the Eldar. Couple of years later, after the Dagor Bragollach, or better known as the Battle of Sudden Flame, and the death of Fingolfin, High King of the Noldor, Sauron launched an attack on Minas Tirith on the Isle of Tol Sirion, a great watchtower of the Eldar. Sauron successfully overtook the tower, and it became a watchtower for Morgoth, and is known as Tol Gauroth, the Isle of Werewolves. Then later, Morgoth ordered Sauron to find and kill Barahir, son of Bregor, but they searched for Barahir and only found Gorlim, one of his companions. He was put before Sauron to stand trial and tell him everything that he knows of Barahir, and Gorlim would only tell Sauron everything that he can if he can be with his wife again. For Gorlim thought that his wife was captured and held captive within the tower, but instead she was killed earlier, but Sauron, the deceiver that he is, did not tell him that. He agreed to the conditions of Gorlim, and Gorlim told him everything he needed to know, where Barahir was hiding, how many there are, and so on and so on. So Sauron promised that he would reunite Gorlim with his wife again, and that he did. He killed Gorlim, and now they are back together. When Barahir was killed by Sauron's hand, Beren his son would avenge his father's death and wandered through Dorthonion and did great deeds, so much so that Morgoth had put a high price on Beren's head, and Sauron, who commanded a great army of werewolves and fell beasts, started to search for Beren. When Beren left together with Finrod Felagund and some companions from the elven realm of Nargothrond in search for the Silmarils, they disguised themselves as orcs, but they got caught, for they didn't report to Sauron as they entered the vale between Eredwithrin and Taur Nufuin. Sauron let them come before him and stripped them from their orc disguises. They were thrown into a dark pit and were devoured by a werewolf, one by one. Withstanding this horror, they refused to betray one another. After all their companions were devoured, only Beren and Finrod Felagund were alive, and then the werewolf attacked Beren. Finrod used all his power to protect him. It was a success, for the werewolf was dead. But Finrod was critically wounded and died a little later. At this exact moment, Luthien came to the bridge of Tol Gauroth, and she started to sing. Sauron heard her and watched from the tower of Minas Tirith. It was indeed Luthien standing there, daughter of Melian and Thingol. He wanted to capture her and give her to Morgoth. The Sauron sent a werewolf to the bridge, but the wolf was slain quickly by Huan, the hound of Valinor, one of the hunting dogs of the Valar Orome. So Sauron sent more werewolves to the bridge, and all of them were slain by Huan, the mighty hound. Eventually he sent Draugluin, chief of the werewolves, to the bridge. The battle was fierce and difficult, but Draugluin, who had been wounded by Huan, fled away from the battle and returned to Sauron to let him know that Huan was there. The prophecy tells that Huan would die at the hands of the greatest werewolf there ever was. So Sauron turned himself into a mighty werewolf, the most feared werewolf the world has ever seen. When Huan saw Sauron, he himself was withdrawn at first. Then Lúthien used her magic to blind Sauron, and Huan sprang upon him, and the fight was brutal and long, and eventually Huan took the upper paw. Sauron was trapped within Huan's jaws, and he could not break free, even when he took the form of a serpent or even his own shape. So eventually Sauron yielded, and he gave the island to Lúthien in exchange for his release. He then took the form of a vampire and fled to Taur Nufuin, filling the forest with horror. A little while later, after the War of Wrath, Morgoth got captured by the Valar, and Sauron adapted his fair form and repented his evil deeds in fear of the wrath of the Valar. Eonwe, a Maya sent by the Valar, ordered Sauron to return to Valinor and receive judgment of Manwë. Sauron didn't want the humiliation, and he fled instead to Middle-earth. So Sauron, once a great Maya of Aulë, turned to the dark side and became a servant of Morgoth. And after Morgoth's downfall, he fled to Middle-earth at the end of the First Age. In the upcoming video, we will cover the rest of Sauron's life during the Second and Third Age. If you are wondering more about other servants of Morgoth, then this video is the one you should see next. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.